Okay. Hello, sunshine. I'm just going to set up here and then we'll get started. Hi to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm here to do a live stream. I'll be doing some free live readings today as soon as I get set up and ready to go. I have my Black Cat Crystal Journey candle scented with what I believe is clove. So I'll light that. This candle's getting pretty low. I think this might be my last day to burn it. It'll probably run out today, I suspect. Maybe I'll get one more out of it, but it's running low. And I've decided to use my Gay Marseille tarot. It comes in this beautiful canvas pouch with Cupid or Eros stamped on there, printed on there. Let me open up these cards. All right, so that's the deck I'll be working with. Let's burn some Palo Santo. Hi, everybody. All my old friends and any newcomers who might be here today. There we go. Okay, and I'll set that aside to burn out. I pulled out a fountain pen today. I use fountain pens quite a lot. This is a TWSBI Eco, and it's almost out of ink. So we'll see if the ink lasts. If it doesn't, I'll pull out something else, whatever I've got in my drawer. But I thought I'd use a fountain pen. It's kind of like a magic wand, you know? And so I'll put together my list here in a moment. I've got a cup of tea. I'm drinking today Twinings Earl Grey tea. And I don't know if you can see on the mug. I don't want to spill it. Maybe once I drink more, I'll show you what's on the mug. The mug was a gift. I'm quite fond of it. Okay, so let's put together our list to get started. So Sunshine was first. All right, followed by Jenna. Followed by Sanja. Followed, I believe, by Bob Hope. And then that damn OJ. and Bukal. And so those of you who have been here before know how this works, but just so we're all on the same page, I will start at the top of the list. I'll call the person's name as it's put in the chat, and you'll have the opportunity to post your question, and I'll do a reading for you. If I call your name and you're not here, I'll have to skip over you and move on to the next person. So this is the list that we will start with. It usually takes 10 to 15 minutes per reading, although that definitely varies. Some are quick and some are slow. And so we'll work through this as they come. But this is the list that we'll begin with to start. And then, depending on how things go and how long my tea lasts and how much energy I have, I may add more people to the list. Okay. So let me put that aside and put my pen aside and do some preliminary shuffling. And Jean, you're totally right. I missed you, didn't I? Let me fix that. All right. Okay. All right. So we'll have Sunshine, Jenna, Sanja, Jean, Bob Hope, That Damn OJ, and Bakal. In that order, unless there's reason to change it. Okay, so I'm going to do some preliminary shuffling because I have not touched these cards since my previous live stream. I've touched lots of other cards. I read for myself every day with the Marseille Tarot and playing cards, and frequently Lenormand, although I don't read Lenormand for others at the moment. I do also sometimes use the Rider-Waite deck and other art tarot, as you've perhaps seen me do on this channel, though not recently. Yes, Jean says Lenormand is a special beast. I quite agree. I find it very useful, Lenormand, but it's newer to me, right? And so that's why I don't feel that I am ready yet, probably to read it for others. But when I read it for myself, I get excellent results. In fact, just last night, I was really tired yesterday, like more tired than I thought that I should have been from the day. And of course, I'd worked all day. And so I asked my Lenormand deck, why am I so tired? Like, what's going on? And I got the birds, although in that particular deck they were owls, but birds or owls, and then the stars, and then the moon. And that said to me that I was so tired because I'd had a lot of conversations that day, in particular, one really kind of high stakes meeting that involved a one-on-one conversation with someone. And I think it drained me more than I had anticipated that it would. And the stars suggested that I'd spent too much time on the internet, online, right, networking, and doing emails and stuff like that, and that pulled me. The moon, pulls. That was pulling me towards what we do at night, which is sleep. Although Jean's pointing out the full moon on the first. That certainly could have affected it too. I hadn't thought of that last night, but I think you're totally right. Okay, so let's move into the first reading of the day, which will be Sunshine. And so, Sunshine, if you would care to post your question. All right, a general reading. Okay. So shall we do for the week ahead? Does that sound good? Should we pull some cards for, today's Friday, so we could go from today up through, um, Friday of next week? Sure. Okay, cool. So when I do general readings, I like to preface general readings just by saying, I find I get the most precise results when I have more precise questions, which doesn't mean that I'm against general readings. It's just that if, sometimes people will ask for a general reading, but there's actually something specific they want to know about. And so if I don't know what that is, obviously I can't respond to it. So for general readings, I go back to the very basic functions of the suits and the very basic functions of the majors, assuming that some majors come up. Um, coins tend to be money, right, or resources, and cups are pleasure, and batons are work or competition of some kind, and swords are troubles, or sometimes the imposing of order on something. Oh, okay. Well, Sunshine has a different question, so maybe we'll go with the second one instead. Who's coming towards me in love for a serious long-term relationship? Okay, we can do that. So we'll do a love reading for Sunshine. Okay, love reading for Sunshine. Who's coming towards me in love for a serious long-term relationship? Okay, let's lay down some cards. We've got the Hermit, Seven Swords, and Nine Coins. And then the Hermit is looking to the left, looking back at something. So I may want to pull another card and see what that is. But so you asked specifically, Sunshine, you asked who was your interrogative word. Who is coming towards you? And so I believe that the cards answer specifically the question that is asked, right? So we see a hermit coming towards you, right? So when I see the hermit, I think of someone who is alone, single, and lonely, right? Lonely may not be the right word. Alone for sure, but um, someone who might be very comfortable in their being alone, right? The hermit isn't necessarily alone and upset about it. They could very much be alone because they choose to be alone. Uh, but we have a single person here, right? And this single person is turning their back to some changes that are happening in their life and some difficulties that might be happening in their life. So we're looking at a person who's um, got some kind of challenge that they are tasked with. That with seven swords is probably pretty painful. And it's something that maybe this person is not yet ready to address or confront. Like you can imagine the hermit walking towards this difficult uh, or painful challenge, and then saying, "Nope, wait, I'm not ready to face those swords yet. I need to turn back. I need to turn my light on, turn my lantern on, and explore something else before I can go into that fight." Right now, let's see what that is, what they're looking back at. So I'm going to pull another card. It's the Tower. Okay, so this is someone who's sort of between a rock and a hard place. No matter which way they go, uh, they've got some struggles ahead of them, right? It is looking like it's gonna turn out fine for this person, but this is someone who is tasked with either facing going into some kind of fight, some kind of battle, or turning back and saying, "No, let's go home," but it turns out the house is on fire, right? And the house is burning down, the house is gonna fall down. So it's someone who's really going through it right now. That said, the outcome actually looks pretty good for this person because at the end of the line of the cards, we have a nine of coins. And so, with the nine of coins, this suggests usually a change for the better, which may, though, involve them needing to undergo what I think here, given the other cards, is a pretty big change of plans. So this is someone who you might meet uh, in a kind of unexpected way, especially from their perspective. Like, I don't think that this person at all is expecting to be starting a relationship, for example, right? And they're the kind of like the circumstances around them are such that uh, they may not be 100% ready in the near future to engage in that relationship, to start up that relationship, because they've got a tower and 7 swords that they're dealing with, right? And eventually, they're going to be able to work their way through it, but, um, they've they've gotta work through these other things before they're gonna get to their change for the better. And it may involve them changing some plans that they thought they had. Like, they may currently be trying to understand, uh, who they are or what their circumstances are, and they may find that they are rejecting a lot of the values that their culture is putting on them, and that's gonna work for a minute, but then it turns out, uh, it's it's they're not gonna be able to reject everything forever, if that makes sense. Another way to put this might be the hermit is turning away from something in their life because it's too painful or difficult to deal with, and they're on their quest, metaphorically speaking, up the mountain so that they can hide in a cave, but it turns out their cave is on fire, and so I think they're gonna find they need to come back down from that mountain and steep themselves back in sort of the real world, right? And that's the change of plans that is going to eventually get them um, to have a change for the better. But this is someone who's got a lot going on right now, and they're thinking and they're trying to understand, but it's not instant. It's gonna take time for them to work through these things. Okay, and welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm doing some free live readings today. I've also started offering paid private readings, and you have a couple options for those. If you look in the description of the video, you'll be able to see the link to book a reading if you're interested in a live face to face Zoom reading. Or I've decided to also offer recorded audio readings that are private as well. And so you can see that by clicking on the link in the video description. So let's see. Some other folks have requested to be added to the list. SR Kish, I'll add you to the bottom of the list. And Sarah Som. Okay, so Sunshine, there is a hermit out there for you, but they are going to need to work through a lot of their own stuff before they're going to sort of be able to make the change um, to be available. Right. This is not someone right now in this moment who is actively searching for a relationship. They're searching for something. They're searching for a way to get out of the path of the Tower and the Seven Swords, and they will get there. Um, but these things takes time. So next up we have Jenna, and I see Jenna's posted their question in the chat, which is fantastic. Sunshine, you're so very welcome. Happy to read for you. So Jenna asks, what's ahead for Zach and me this 2026, and how's he feeling right now about our connection? So there's sort of two questions there. One is like a predictive reading, and one is a right now. How does he feel? And so let's pick one of those, I think. Would you rather know how he feels right now, or I could do either? I could do a predictive reading from now until the end of the year, or I could do how he feels right now. I'm happy to do either. But I think for specificity, the predictive one. Okay, cool. So what's up for you and Zach for sort of the rest of this year? All right. Okay, so what's ahead for Zach and Jenna through the end of 2026? Okay, 3 cards. Let's see what we get. Queen of Wands, 3 cups, and 10 coins. Well, that's good to see. I like that. So, Queen of Wands here, I think, is you, and you are looking at 3 cups, which I would read in the context of a relationship as a growing emotional connection, right? It's It's still maybe at the point where it's kind of early on, at least in terms of, um, emotional openness, right? But it's getting bigger, and what is interesting, is the movement from the 3 of cups to the 10 of coins, because it's almost as though these cards are suggesting that with the work or the effort that you're putting into the relationship, you're getting some emotional growth, but you're getting a ton of sort of practical or intellectual connection, right? I think about with the 10, the way that, especially in this particular deck, there's all of these leaves representing growth, but also the branches that are connecting all the coins to one another. And it reminds me almost of like brain cells, like growing and connecting and getting bigger and all of that. And so, while you can expect emotional growth, some of that, I think what you're going to get even more of is a kind of brilliant intellectual connection. And so, like some people will love that, and some people might prefer more cups, but um, I would expect to see a little bit of the emotional connection, but mostly like really good conversations, really good valuable exchanges, like finding that what the two of you can share with one another or transact or exchange with one another is extremely valuable to the both of you. And the one other thing I'd note is with the Queen of Wands, um, you can also expect that uh, continuing the relationship and getting this growth and valuable importance in exchange will require that you put effort into it. That's the other thing I would add. So it's not as though it's going to happen with no effort, but if you are the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Wands works at it, so to speak, um, you're going to get excellent results, particularly in terms of um, the relationship becoming valuable, and also to a lesser extent, but it will still be present in terms of sort of pleasure and emotional um, openness and growth and that kind of thing as well. So let me see. I see the bunch of stuff in the chat. So it's early for you too. 5 weeks in person for us tomorrow. Yes, so early and growing. We did say we want to just focus on each other romantically and emotionally last night. There's your 3 of cups. We'd already been physically exclusive like a few weeks ago, but last night we set the boundary of emotional exclusivity too. Yeah. Like no talking to others romantically. Yeah. So you are um, setting kind of emotional boundaries with each other, and that could create a space for the emotional growth. And beyond the emotional growth, though, I think you're likely to find that this is someone that you have um, a lot of interests with that are not strictly related to. In other words, another way to put this might be. Um, Someone that could be, more of a not just someone who you can be open with emotionally or physically, but someone that who you could share ideas with, right? A best friend, yeah, for sure. Um, everybody has a different personality, and so different people value different things in friends. But if you value, like, I want a friend I can have a really good conversation with and that we can share interests with, and then I would expect this to work out. Yeah. You're welcome, Jenna. So next up would be Sanja. Okay, and Sanja says, okay, your hair appointment went great. So glad to hear it. If I remember, um, I sort of remember saying something about like, you're going to be happy with it. You're going to be satisfied with it. It might be a little different than what, um, it's like something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, but that you would feel satisfied with like what you paid was worth it. That's kind of what I remember from that reading. But your question today is, who likes me? I want to see, will the crazy devil be in the cards again? Okay. So we're doing a love reading for Sanja. Yes, I also appreciate the hair appointment update. As I've said before, um, my philosophy around the tarot or any kind of divination really is that you can ask the cards any question whatsoever. Uh, whoops. I think that at one point in the history of tarot, it was reserved exclusively for like really big, major, serious spiritual questions. And those are 100% valid, and the tarot is excellent for that. But I don't see anything wrong with asking ordinary, mundane questions too, like how am I going to feel about my hair appointment, or when is my mail going to arrive, or um, should I leave for work at the normal time or 15 minutes early? Like anything. I think any question can be answered by the tarot. So today we're asking, who likes Sanja? Who out there might have a kind of crush on Sanja? And we hope we don't get the devil. Although the devil having a crush on you can make for a very fun weekend. but beyond that, you got to be careful. Okay, let's see for Sanja. Who out there likes Sanja in the sense of having a crush on Sanja? Okay, let's see what we get. First card down is the Lovers, followed by the Queen of Cups, and followed by 4 batons. Okay, so I'm going to make some assumptions, and if I'm wrong, please let me know in the chat. My assumption here is that you're the Queen of Cups showing up as the middle card, right? And so if we assign you as fitting that image, then it's this person in the middle of the lovers cards, who is this person out there who may have a crush on you, right? Who's feeling something, but as those of you who have watched me read for a while or who might be familiar with the Marseille Tarot, as you know, um, I would read the Lover's card in the Marseille Tarot differently than I would if it were another deck like the Rider Waite Smith, or I've got this Folklore Tarot um, from Rowan Ortkins. I've used this before on my channel, and I really do think it's important to read not just standard definitions or keywords, but to look at the actual images on the card and use those to tell a story, right? And so this figure on the center of the lover's card is not sure what to do, right? There are a lot of other people and forces in the picture. This person is caught between two others and also waiting for Cupid or Eros, whoever is represented by this impulsive force with the arrow drawn to sort of shoot them in the heart and give them guidance about what they should want to do, right? And then here's you a little further away, right? Still in the picture, but a little further away and noticeably larger, right? Uh, and so you're in the mix, but like there are lots of other people here. So, especially with these first two cards, there's a sense that if this person has, if this is someone that you already know, and I think it is because of the Four of Batons, we'll get to that in a minute. Um, this person is not ready to make a move. They're hesitant, they're ambivalent. There are lots of other options available, lots of other people around. Different people are telling them what they should do. They may even already be dating someone else or be involved in some way with someone else, right? And so what needs to happen for this person to act is Cupid needs to fire the arrow. And as we see in the card, that hasn't happened yet. Cupid is aiming, but Cupid has not released the arrow. So this person is waiting for an impulse. They're waiting for sort of um, cosmically or unconsciously, or however you'd like to term it, they're waiting to be sort of pushed to act, to make a decision. And in this very moment, they're hesitating, right? So that said, we've got the Four of Batons here. And with the Four of Batons, I'm thinking instantly of a workplace. If it's not a workplace, it's somewhere where like people are cooperating or competing or like getting things done, right? It could be like a school, it could be anywhere where you're like there's some effort has to be applied, right? And so I think that this card is signaling sort of the context of where all of this is happening, right? So that's why I suggested that it's probably someone, if you don't already know them, like they're already in your sphere of influence, or like they're already in places that you go, if that makes sense. It's not like a stranger. Um, like it doesn't necessarily mean you know who they are, although we see the Queen of Cups facing this person, which does again suggest that um, I don't think it's like someone completely unknown to you. Okay, now let me peek at the chat. Okay, so Michelle, I'm going to add you to the bottom of the list. Okay. So you asked another question in the chat. Will that person stay where they are? Um, we would have to pull more cards, I think, to ask what's going to happen next, right? Because I think that the cards answer the specific question that's asked, and the question was, who is the person? And so that's what they're telling us. Um, I could read these cards with a different question in mind, but I feel like that wouldn't give us a satisfactory answer because the question you ask is answered by the cards, and then I wouldn't wanna, like, retroactively change the question. So, um, in a future in future, I could pull more cards for you and do another reading, but for today, I wanna stick to just 1 per person to make sure that I get as far down this list as I can before I run out of steam. Okay, so Jean is next, and I see Jean posted their question, which is wonderful. And Jean asks what eyes, feelings, and intentions are towards me after all our interactions this week. Okay. Yes, Sanja, I think that person also likes multiple people. Yeah. And it could also be like, it could be the kind of thing where like one of their friends is like, "Hey, you should really go out with this person." And maybe their mom is like, "Hey, you should really go out with that person." And the the figure depicted on the lover's card is not ready to make their own decision. They're waiting for someone else to tell them what to do, and multiple people are telling them what to do. And so because they're not ready to make their own decision, they're kind of hesitating, and they're like not sure, well, wait, this person says I should go over there and that one says over there. What do I do? If only one person tells me what to do, I can do it. But when I'm getting conflicting input, conflicting messages, uh, they freeze, right? This is the kind of person who will freeze when given conflicting messages, as opposed to someone who might say, "I know what I want, and it's right there, and so I'm going to go after it." Right? This person is not at that point in their life. Okay, so for Jean, we're asking, what are eyes, feelings, and intentions towards me after all our interactions this week? Okay, here we go. There's our Hermit again. First card down, followed by the Knight of Coins and the Empress. Well, I think you're the Empress, and I think this other person is the Hermit, and there's they're taking some kind of practical action towards you. So, um, hmm. Well, we have three human figures on the cards: the Hermit, Knight of Coins, and the Empress. And so my intuition suggests that you're the Empress and that this other person is the Hermit. But then I have the question of, if we're only working with two people, then who's the Knight of Coins? And on the one hand, I do think the knights and the pages can stand in for, with the knight's actions that others are taking. So we could read this as the Hermit is taking an action, um, that involves a coin, uh, towards the Empress, right? That would be one way of reading it. The only other way to read it would be that the Knight of Coins is some third person. So if there's any third party who might be involved, then I would want to bring that in. But unless you suggest that that's true, I wouldn't feel any need to read it that way. So seeing this person show up as the Hermit, hermits are solitary, right? And so this is sort of giving me a picture of someone who wants to maybe be a little bit alone for a moment, but they're not unconnected to you. It's sort of going both ways, right? Like on the one hand, the hermit wants to be alone for a bit, but they're not severing the connection. It's not like you've got swords in between you or the tower or death or anything like that. You've got still action taken in the form of a coin. And so it's as though while they're maybe pulling back a little bit, they're also trying to take some action to indicate how valuable the connection with you is. So, it could be with the hermit that that this person just needs a little space for the moment, or they're busy with something else, or they've got other things that they need to take care of, right? But the movement, if you're feeling movement of like or distance between the two of you, um, it's not the kind of thing that is meant to put a wall up between you or sever the connection between you. It's simultaneously this person trying to indicate how important and valuable the connection is with you, even though it does seem like they're pulling away a little bit, if that makes sense. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I am Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm doing some free live readings today. I've got a fairly long list at the moment, and so I'm not gonna add more to it right now. I wanna work my way through the ones I've got here, but there's a good chance, depending on how things go, that I may add more people to the list. I am also available now, recently, for paid private readings. You can check the link in the description of the video if that interests you. I have live one on one Zoom readings available, as well as recorded audio readings. Oh, so Gene says he's been sick, but he's been talking about wanting kids a lot lately. Well, that makes a lot of sense because the hermit is not the healthiest looking of the major arcana. Um, they're represented as quite an elderly person, and so this is someone who might need to retreat to their cave or their bed for a while to sort of shore up their strength, right? But simultaneously, they're not doing that to get away from you. It's just something they need to do. It's something this person needs to do. And so they're also trying to indicate through their actions the value of the relationship to them. Yeah, we can look at the surprise. What's the surprise card? Aw, it's the sun. The sun. So the sun card, I actually prefer the sun card over the lovers when doing a relationship reading if we're looking for a positive outcome, because the sun card is happiness in a way that, we've only got two people here as opposed to three plus Cupid, and they're on equal footing, right? This is a symmetrical relationship. It's as much a friendship as it is a romantic relationship, and everybody is seeing things clearly, right? The sun is out, things are bright, things aren't hidden, and you're protected by the wall back here, and so that's great to see. Okay, so I believe Bob Hope is next. Oh, it's your card too. You're a Leo. Cool. You're welcome, Jean. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot doing some free readings. You can check out the video description or the pinned chat message for more information about me and how to request a free reading. I don't, my list isn't open right at the moment, though I may reopen it. I do the readings on a first come, first serve basis. And I'm also available now for paid private readings. Check the link in the video description for more information. So, Bob Hope, are you here? Okay, Bob Hope. Last call for Bob Hope. All right, so then next up is That Damn OJ. If you are here, That Damn OJ, then you are next. All right, That Damn OJ is here and has a question for us. We're doing That Damn OJ's reading. And then here's the rest of the list at the moment: Bakal, SR Kish, Sarah Sam, and Michelle. So that damn OJ asks, will my upcoming date with Abby lead us to get back together? All right. Will my upcoming date with Abby lead us to get back together? Oh, you're welcome for getting your name right. I don't always get them right, but I'm glad I got yours right. Okay, so upcoming date with Abby, will it lead the two of you to get back together? Okay, here we go. All right, 3 batons, 9 batons. Ooh, 9 cups. That sounds like a yes to me. So let me tell you why. Um, 3 batons, this is putting in effort and things are taking shape, right? Like something you're building, something you're creating, something you're putting effort into, work into is starting to come together to do something, to bear fruit, given the cherries and strawberries on the card, right? So there's that. And then what? Well, there may be a little bit of tension in that there does need to be a change in the method or the way in which you are doing things, or the two of you are doing things, right? It's as though the thing you're building gets or advances fairly quickly up to a point where you realize, okay, we need to take a different approach to this. Some change in the way you are building the relationship will need to occur, and it may require making a particular kind of judgment or making a particular kind of decision, because if you keep going the way you've been going, it might sort of just lead to um, an ending, right? But it looks like that change or decision is made in the right way, because then we get 9 cups, which traditionally, those of you who know cartomancy know this is traditionally the wish card, and it doesn't always mean that, right? But um, it can mean you're going to get your wish. And so, assuming that you want to get back together with Abby, um, that's how I would read this. The 9 of Cups, I would read as things are changing for the better. So, like changing how you're building the relationship results overall in a great change for the better and a change of heart, right? As though someone's feelings, rather than being so focused on putting in effort and working and building the relationship, now you're like, hey, we've created something really good here. And now we can share and be open and enjoy these the sort of fruits of our labor, right? Um, so my response based on these cards is yeah. I think that your I think you said it was a coffee date. Oh, you didn't. You just said a date. So that at the date, you'll be able to start laying down um, laying down pieces of the puzzle, right? And then through working together, cooperating together in um, building the relationship, there will be a realization that maybe something that didn't work before needs to be done differently, and that working through that together is going to produce a change of heart and a change for the better. So that is the answer that I would give you, that damn OJ. um, Short answer is yes, and longer answer, by working together, doing something differently than you did last time, you're going to get good results. Um, Particularly in terms of your emotional openness to one another and your ability to enjoy, to a great extent, um, one another's company. Let's put it that way. Okay, I finished my tea, so I can show you my cup. This is the cup that my a very dear friend of mine got me. I think it was for my birthday last year. Read band books with this really cool skeleton reading a book on it. I think this is my favorite mug of the ones that I have. Okay, so next up, we have Bakal or Bukal. Bukal. You're totally welcome, that damn OJ. No worry about the lag. I know we're all at the mercy of Wi-Fi. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. I've been doing some free live readings today. I don't have the list open right at the moment. I may reopen it depending on if we have time. I'm also now available for paid private readings, and if you check the video description, you can find a link for more information about those. Yes, Bukal, it is your turn. Feel free to post your question in the chat. All right, and there it is. Okay, so Bukal asks, so I met this boy named Arfat. We were good match, but he suddenly pulled back. I don't know if he loves me or will come back, or if I should move on. Okay, so I can think of several possible ways to approach this. Um, if you are thinking about this as you have a choice to make and you have the agency here, and you can either um, stick it out with him or move on. We could do um, 3 cards for each option and read them and then help you make your choice if you're thinking of it in that sense. That's one way to go about this. Another way we could go about this is we could ask, um, like, if you know that you don't want to move on, and if you really want to make things work with this person, and it doesn't feel so much like a choice, then we could do 3 cards for, what the current dynamic is in the relationship, and then 1 card on top and 1 card on bottom to indicate the best and worst course of action you could take to reach the best possible outcome for you in this relationship. So, um there are other ways we could do it too, but those are sort of the 2 main ones that come to mind. So, um, I guess maybe let's go with the first one because that seems to be most closely aligned with the question you put in the chat. So why don't we do 3 cards for if you stay with him and 3 cards for if you move on? And then hopefully that will bring you some clarity about which path forward will get you wherever it is you wanna be. So let me ask Bukal, do you feel that moving on is not actually an option? Like, realistically, are you ready to decide to move on, or is that not really an option for you right now? Because if it's not really an option, then throwing cards for it won't necessarily help. Because if the truth is that you're sort of never gonna move on or at least right now not going to move on, then it's sort of irrelevant to see, like, what would happen if you did. Okay, well, let's try and see what we get. So the first 3 cards will indicate the likely outcome if you stay with him. Oh, okay, you don't want to move on. Okay, so then let's lay out 3 cards to indicate the current dynamic of the relationship, and then we'll put a card on top to indicate your best move to get the outcome you want, and a card on the bottom to form a cross to indicate what you should avoid doing. Okay, so the first 3 cards describe the dynamic of the relationship. Hmm. So there's a lack of clarity in this relationship. It's hard to see what's really happening. This is the moon. There may be confusions or fears or even possibly arguments. and the waters are murky. The waters are muddy. We don't know what's down there, right? Um, we'll get to the 4 in a minute. This other person is showing up as the emperor. So it kinda seems like this person is calling the shots. The emperor is the one who gives commands, right? They've got the scepter, and they hold up the scepter, and they say, "It's going to be like this." Boom, and then people are supposed to do what they say, right? Not that they do, but that's what the emperor expects and assumes is going to happen, is the emperor gives a command, or has a strategy, or lays out a plan, and everybody's gonna do what the emperor says. So, I suspect this guy you're with, um, f wants to be in control, right? Like, wants to sort of hold the power in the relationship, and may be doing some of that, strategizing a little bit with that, by not revealing everything, about their emotions, about their feelings, right? And so at the moment, there is a sense of stability, but if you don't like where you're at, stability isn't always good, right? If you like where you're at, stability is great because you wanna stay there. But if you don't really like where things are and there's stability, then that's not great because you're actually looking for a change. And the 4 of batons in the middle here is indicating, a dynamic that does not want to change, right? So there's a lack of clarity and a dynamic in which that lack of clarity is not inclined to change, right? And it has to do with the way the emperor, who I would read again as this love interest, the emperor's kind of creating or commanding the situation to be like this right now. Okay. So, what can you do in response to that? We'll lay two more cards. We'll put one above the 4 of batons and one below it, and we'll read them in tandem in terms of each other. And the top, that's how to get the outcome you want, which it sounds like is a clearer, deeper connection with this person. And the bottom card will be what you need to avoid. So the top card is the Knight of Swords, and the bottom card is 8 coins. So let me hold these up. I know because of the size of the cards and the size of my camera frame and the table, they fall a little bit outside of the frame. But the top card is the Knight of Swords, so you should act in accordance with the Knight of Swords, and you should not act in accordance with the 8 of coins. And so this is saying pretty clearly to me that you need to act. This is not the time. Um, if you want to get out of this dynamic where things are uncertain and things are unclear and nothing seems to be changing for the better, and he's calling the shots about it, the way out is you need to get on your horse and charge at him with a sword, right? Like, if you just, sit around like a cog in the wheel, being cautious and careful and waiting and slow and, I'll see what happens and I'll go with what other people think I should do, that is not gonna make any difference, okay? If you do that, you're going to continue with the way things are now. If you want things to be different, you're going to sort of have to ride into war, right? And don't come at him with a coin. You need to come at him with a sword, metaphorically speaking, of course, right? So um, the swords are fast, the coins are slower, right? So this isn't a wait around and see what happens kind of situation. If you see how the way the horse is rearing up, it's like it's going quickly. It's galloping off. It's going. And and so that is what you would need to do. So you need to kind of confront him about the situation and indicate that um, that you want something else, right? That going along with um, how things have been going isn't going to work for you anymore. And I'll also just add that, of course, I am certainly not here to tell you or anyone what they should do. You all are making your own decisions, and you all need to decide for yourself. If you think I'm wrong, then that is fine. You do what you need to do. All I'm doing is reading cards, right? You know what's going on in your life, so um, I always want to qualify everything I say with that note that we all have to make and be responsible for our own decisions. Yeah. Okay, what do I mean by act? Uh, Literally, what we see on the card is a person pulling out their sword. So we could, and riding off with it. And so we could ask ourselves, what do people do with swords? Well, people fight with swords, right? They go to war with swords. They poke at each other with swords to the point where it might even hurt a little bit, right? I mean, with a sword, a literal sword, you can maim someone, right? So that's what I mean by act is if there's any sense, like if you feel, for example, that that waiting around, taking things slowly, letting it develop, if you feel like you're sparing his feelings or that you just don't want to hurt him or you don't want you don't want an argument to erupt, the Knight of Swords is saying, actually, you need to have that argument, right? And it won't be fun, it won't be pleasant, but things are going to stay as they are now until that argument happens, or until in the future some other event might come along to change things. But if we're asking, what can you do now to make a difference? Uh, you need to provoke, you need to prod, you need to insert a sword into the situation as opposed to playing it safe, being cautious, being prudent, waiting for the gears to spin and hoping a different result comes along. You've got to go to war for what you want. That's what the Knight of Swords is, like a warrior, right? Riding off into battle, ready to fight. So you tried to reach out, and Michelle says, tell him what you want and set boundaries, which I think is very much in line with what the Knight of Swords is doing, right? If you are in a situation where things aren't changing, there's a wall up, and things are murky and unclear, and he's not only allowing, but it seems like commanding this situation to happen, um, then being really clear, even if it's poking or prodding about what it is you want and what the boundaries are, is what you need to do. And if you say he blocked you, then it sounds like in some sense, you say blocked, and I think, well, then maybe you're sort of in the midst of the battle right now, right? Um, and so I would sort of strike again, so to speak. Um, why don't we look at the surprise card at the bottom of the deck? This is the card that represents something unseen and unknown that pops up. Okay. It's more swords. It's the 9 of swords. So, what is maybe a surprise, what is currently not entirely visible, uh, is the way in which, with the 9 of swords, this is a change that is difficult, perhaps even very difficult, to endure. With 9 of swords, I often think of um, anxieties and about a kind of an extra element needed to be added. So 10 is the end. And so you're not at the end, right? Or you won't be coming to the end quite yet. But um, the interactions between the two of you um, are sort of likely to intensify in ways that aren't necessarily pleasurable, right? That would be like cups, or maybe coins. So if he was emotionally unavailable, not committing, calling the shots, and no change was happening, you've already tried, um, as you said, messaging him, right? So maybe kind of starting to strike, so to speak. Um, the 9 of swords is saying the the metaphorical battle would need to intensify. And the other thing I would just add is, like, at a certain point, you would want to ask yourself whether it's worth it or not, right? Like, you can't win every war. No one can win every war. And if we look at the cards on the table, we've got an emperor and a knight. And the emperor can command armies, and the knight is like a soldier in the army, right? So there is a power imbalance between these two figures. And the emperor does have more agency, more power than the knight does, right? So, um, so is it worth it to continue the battle? Only you can answer that, right? Um, you know the situation, and you know what you want more than anybody else does. Um, but it's not looking like easy, smooth sailing, or suddenly a quick change of heart, and like everything's going to be that he's just going to change his mind and say, "I'll step down from my throne, and I'll shine the light on everything and open up, and things will change." And that's that's not the outcome that the cards show here. Okay, welcome to anyone who might be joining. I am Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm doing some free live readings today. I've got 3 more on my list, and I might open it again. We'll see what time it is once I finish the current list. I am available for paid private readings, and you can check the video description for a link of how to find out more information on those. I do live Zoom readings and recorded audio readings as well. Next on my list is SR Kish. So, SR Kish, hello. And if you'd like to post your question, you can go ahead and post it in the chat. After SR Kish, we'll have Sarah Sum and then Michelle. Okay, it looks like the question is above. So let me scroll up and see if I can find it. Okay, I found it. So SR Kish wants to know, can you tell me about my relationship with P and his feelings for me? Yeah, we can do that. All right, so we want to know about SR's relationship with P, his feelings towards you. You're welcome, Bukal. You're very welcome. I hesitate to offer my own personal insights. Sometimes I do. So, but I like to preface it by saying, like, this is just me talking, and not the cards, and like this is just me saying from my own perspective and history. Like, if you're in, let me say it from my perspective. When I have been in a relationship with someone in the past that felt like we were always kind of at war with each other, sometimes I let those wars go on longer than they should have. Uh, and in retrospect, I think maybe I should have let it end, for my own sake, a little earlier. I'm not saying that I regret the whole thing, because I think I did learn from those experiences. And I'm not saying that my experiences are the same as yours. Um, but you know, if you're always fighting, at a certain point you have to decide, like, should I keep doing this or not? Okay, so for SR, how does P feel about their relationship? Okay, let's see what we get here. Knight of Coins. 3 Cups. Okay, and the Lovers. So he feels like there's development, it's developing. He finds that it's important to him and that there's emotional growth, that the two of you are getting closer, right? And that you're sharing something that is maybe moving slowly, but very much in the right direction. Okay. It's valuable. He finds it important and he's motivated towards it. Uh, I think that he may have some trouble with the idea that, like any relationship, it's not just about the practical things, it's also about emotional depth and closeness. And that as you get closer to each other emotionally, uh, he might have some hesitation, right? That he might feel a little bit unsure of himself or ambivalent about moving forward with it. And that's not to say that that isn't something he won't be able to address or overcome or deal with, because he does find it valuable, the relationship, and he's, interesting, and it is going forward and at a fairly slow pace. But um, with the Knight of Coins, the Knight of Coins is a slow moving knight, and so the knight moves, and so things develop, but he doesn't go very fast, right? And I think part of that is because it's clear to him, and I say him, I hope I'm getting the pronoun right. If I'm not, I apologize. Um, it's becoming clear to him on some level that as things intensify and develop between the two of you, um, he will, the closer you get to someone, the more sort of emotionally vulnerable you end up being. The more you share with someone, the more you know, and the more emotionally open you are with someone, the more that other person, um, the more you can get hurt, right? Potentially hurt. And I don't think he's feeling like he's going to get hurt, but he may have some trouble opening up emotionally. And that is what creates a sense of uncertainty, hesitation, stalling, that kind of thing may be coming. So there's a feeling, a very much a feeling of slowness happening here, and that eventually there's going to be some, like, a choice that needs to be made, and that will require him to um, confront some things which he may not be 100% ready to address yet, right? And so there might be some stalling or slowing down or hesitation, that kind of thing. Um, but seeing the first card down as the Knight of Coins is great for several reasons. You know, they're facing towards the future, right? Suggesting that he's someone who does see a future in the relationship. The coin itself indicates something valuable, something important, something of interest, right? And he's moving towards it. Um, and that I would read, if it's not clear, as his connection to you, because that's what we are reading about. That's what the question was about. And so it's headed in the right direction, right? The question um, is it going to slow down even more, or is he going to hesitate as your emotional connection grows and gets deeper? And I think he will, right? But that, that's not the end of the story, right? It's just that that is something that perhaps you could be aware of, so that if you find him hesitating or um, turning away or anything like that, that you can sort of understand where that might be coming from, and that it has to do with, like, the closer you're getting emotionally, um, the more he might slow down, if that makes sense. It actually makes me think of, in mathematics, there's a term which I almost always mispronounce, but it's an asymptote, I think is how you pronounce it, asymptote. And what it refers to is, in a graph, it's a line that approaches a point, I believe, um, and it gets infinitely close, um, but it never touches the point. And it sort of makes me think of that. Like, the more he opens up emotionally, the more he might hesitate or slow down. Okay, so next up we have Sarah Somme, followed by Michelle. All right. And we've got Sarah's question. SR, you're very welcome. There's every reason to be hopeful here with these cards. Okay, so Sarah says, next step of Zine towards Bushra. All right, so you've got a crush. Bushra has a crush on Zine, and you're wondering, what is Zine gonna do next? Okay, let's see what we get. Next step of Zine towards Bushra. Okay, first card down, Seven of Swords, followed by the Magician and the Tower. Well, we saw the Seven of Swords and the Tower. I think it was the first reading of the day. Is that right? Certainly in an earlier reading today, if I'm remembering correctly. Oh, I think they were in a different, they were swapped in the other way. Um, so let me just look at these a moment and work out in my head what I want to say out loud. Okay. So let's start with the Magician because this card represents this other person, Zine, right? And so a couple things to say about the Magician. Um, First of all, they've got a lot of things on their table, right? So the magician tends to be someone who can be very busy, has a lot of things going on. Their environment is hectic. They're they maybe are having trouble focusing, right, on any one thing. And instead of focusing on one thing, they're looking at the green cup and the red cup and the coins and the dagger and all these different things, metaphorically in their life. They might have school and family and work, and their car broke down or whatever it is. And so lots of different things going on in this person's life right now. And so um, that's one thing to consider with this card, the first of the major arcana or trump cards. The other thing is that the magician, while they have tons of things going on in their life, they're very good at choreographing or strategizing or figuring out how to handle all of those things, right? So, um, you know, a traditional uh, sort of reading of the magician card, especially in the Rider Waite Smith deck, is about manifestation, right? And so we could read it that way. More mundanely, I would just think that the magician is the kind of person who knows how to set things up to get the result that they want to get, right? But it does require an intense amount of um, energy and concentration and focus, right? So that tells us a little bit about how Zine is showing up with regards to you right now, which is there's just a lot of things going on for him. And so I'm not sure that you can expect him to make to focus specifically on you, if that makes sense, right? So that would be one thing. The other thing to notice about the cards that have come out in this spread is he's got seven swords behind him and the tower after him. And so while it's true that the magician has a lot on his table and is doing or capable of doing a lot to organize and choreograph all of these different elements of their life, they've had some rough stuff happen to them in the past, right? The seven swords, which traditionally, historically, can refer to a tearful situation. It's a time of troubles. It's trouble piled upon trouble. We can see in this particular card the way that, in addition to all of the swords, and the central bloody sword in the middle there are a bunch of razors, and they've got blood on them too. So a really difficult time that this person has had to endure, and so that informs how they're going to approach the future as well, right? Difficult times in the past, juggling things now, but then a great upheaval coming towards this person in the future. And so with the tower, we see the tower on the one hand can be like things are just kind of falling apart. Right, like there are contradictions in this person's life, perhaps having to do with their attention being distributed towards lots of different things. And it may come to a time where they realize it's all gonna crash down a bit, at least for a moment, because they just had too many things on their table. And so, my answer to your question, because I do think the most important thing is to answer the specific question that was asked, is that I don't see him taking any specific step towards any kind of romantic relationship. And I'm making the assumption there that that's, well, you did say crush, so it's not an assumption. You've said in the message that it's a crush. So I don't see him taking um, steps towards any kind of romantic relationship right now, because there are just way too many other things going on in this person's life, for them to choose and focus um, on one romantic relationship, if that makes sense. I would say, not that you asked, and not that it necessarily comes up in the cards, it really doesn't, but anybody who I cared about, who I saw was between the 7 of swords and the tower, I might ask that person, "Hey, is there anything I can do to help?" Because these cards are really tough to navigate, the moments in life that come up being represented by the 7 of swords and the tower, um, it it would likely be, appreciated, to get any kind of help, any kind of assistance, right? Oh, he's married. Aha. So so then the other thing to consider with the magician is that he knows how to trick people. He can do tricks, right? Um, and that isn't always relevant, but if he's married, th then I would point out that the magician can be a trickster, and that can be fine if we know that it's a show, if we know that there's a trick happening. If you see a magic show in Las Vegas or wherever, and you know that it's an illusion, that's fun. But if someone is tricking you and you don't know that that's happening, that can be really hurtful. The other thing then to consider is, the house is on fire. The house is struck by lightning, right? And so his um, his home life may be kind of reaching a disaster, right? That would be a way to put it. That things are, everybody's falling out of the house, right? And so I guess what I'm getting at is someone who's had tears and pain, who might be feeling the need to trick others or just be overly busy, whose house metaphorically is on fire, may not be in the right headspace to begin a relationship at this time, right? Yeah, familial problems for sure. Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to Michelle, who has conveniently posted her question. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. And I've been doing some free live readings today. I'm also available for paid private readings. You can check the link in the description of the video for information about those. I offer one-on-one Zoom readings as well as pre-recorded audio readings, specifically answering your question. All right, so Michelle asks if there are any messages from her spirit guides or something they want to say. All right, so let's pull 3 cards and see what message Michelle's spirit guides have for her today. Okay. So, what messages do Michelle's spirit guides have for her today? Okay, here we go. First card down. Oh, of course, the devil makes an appearance. Followed by the Popess. Interesting. Followed by the Pope. Huh. All major arcana. Let me just look at them for a moment before I start interpreting out loud. Okay. So I think you're showing up here as the Popess. And so here you are sitting with your book, and you have or are in the process of acquiring the secret knowledge or esoteric knowledge that you need in order to move forward in life, right? So you're studying, maybe you're journaling, maybe you're writing. If you're not doing those things, this is a clear message to do those things or continue doing them or do more of them, right? Because there is this devil sitting back here, and the devil wants to bind you, chain you. The devil is very attractive, it enthralls you, and it's something you feel like you can't get away from. The devil card, as I tend to read it, is about believing that this is the only way. The devil will tell you that this is the only thing you can do, right? The only thing you can do is follow this path. You must believe this thing. You must go in this direction. You must stay chained to the devil. You don't have another option, right? But the devil also lies to you, right? And the devil doesn't bargain in good faith, and the devil makes contracts that are not that will trick you, right? That will bind you. You can never trust the devil, no matter how attractive or interesting or seductive or enthralling the devil may seem. And so the message here, especially in the first two cards, is about your finding your own way and realizing that if you read and write and study, maybe you read tarot, or whatever it is you might do to gain that um, secret, intuitive, special knowledge of yourself, that is how you're going to keep yourself away from the devil. That is how you're going to trick the devil, so to speak, in order to get away from the devil. So, whatever it is in your life that feels like you have no other choice, that feels like you can't seem to get away from it, the message is actually you can, right? That if you can um, gather your own knowledge that the devil doesn't even maybe know that you have, that you can make decisions for yourself, that you can act for yourself, right? Now, that brings us then to the Pope card, because interestingly, what's mirrored in this spread is that on the one hand, you've got the devil, the other option seems to be the Pope. And it's as though you're sort of you've got two options, right? And one of them is the devil, which doesn't seem like a good choice. But the other option is the Pope, which here I think would represent like institutionalized religion, um, the kind of spirituality in which someone else tells you what to believe, or that someone else has access to spirit, and you don't have direct access to it, but you can go to this person. You can go to whoever it might be, a priest or a preacher or um, some like a book or whatever it might be, instead of writing your own book, right? And so I think the message here is that it might feel like you don't have good options for, let's call it spiritual growth, although maybe you have another phrase, right? It might seem you don't have those options, but you actually do. And they have to do completely with your own study, your own personal connection to um, intuitive, we might also call it, connection to to spirituality. That's the word I'm trying to say, spirituality, right? And so the Pope S She sits with her book and she journals and she writes and she reads and she studies. And that's how she makes a spiritual connection. She doesn't go to the devil and get lies. And she also doesn't go to the Pope and allow someone else to make her spiritual connections for her. She does it herself. And so I think that's the message here. So let me look at you posted. I have spent a lot of time trying to open my spirituality, but don't really feel like it worked. So I'm having a longer break. Do you think it's about that? Yes. Yes. Um, with the Pope S, like practically speaking, I would say things you could do to advance your spiritual journey, or however you'd like to say it, that are things that the Pope S does are um, number one, study, right? So, whatever spiritual path it is, study in the sense that you're not reading or watching or looking for someone else to give you the answers, but study other paths so that you can find the answer for yourself, right? Don't be distracted by the devil, who might tell you, I mean, the devil might tell you there is no such thing as spirituality, right? The devil might say, um, do engaging in a spiritual journey or trying to grow spiritually, anything like that, that's not real. All that's real is um, work, money, politics, relationships. Like the devil's going to trick you into thinking that it's not worthwhile to engage in that kind of practice. And the Pope is going to tell you you should engage in a spiritual practice, but you should do it exactly the way the Pope tells you to. You have to follow the Pope's rituals. You have to have your spirituality mediated by the Pope, all of that kind of thing. But the Pope S doesn't have to follow what the Pope says and also doesn't have to follow what the devil says, right? And so you say in your message you study and meditated a lot but don't journal. I would say get a journal. Yeah, like try writing things down. I don't know if you read tarot. I have several journals. I do a lot of writing. This is probably my favorite card in the deck. I will confess, the Pope S. Um, I journal every day, and I don't want to be the Pope. I don't want to tell you like, oh, you should do it the way I tell you. That's not what I'm trying to do. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and there's no one right way of doing it. But just seeing these cards pop up, I'm like, oh well, do you have a book that you're reading, or a book that you're writing, or a record that you're keeping, um, that might help you keep track over time of your spiritual growth, um, or just spiritual ideas that you might have, right? Yeah, the devil could be the ego, in especially in the sense of like, um, saying the only things that matters is the self, right? And for many people, part of the spiritual journey is recognizing that the self is an illusion, right? And we're far more connected to one another than the devil might have us think, right? Um, so yeah, if you do tarot, like something I do is I read tarot for myself every day, and I keep a record. I write down exactly which cards I've drawn. I write down my interpretations of those cards. If I'm doing a predictive reading, then I will make a prediction and then I'll leave space, blank space, to at a later date come back and write in whether what I predicted came true or not. I'll use it to help me make decisions, and I write all of those things out. And And then so that's one part of it, but then the other part is going back and reading those things is for me, is a profoundly moving experience, because it helps me recognize, number 1, where I've been wrong, where I've where I've totally gotten it wrong, not only in terms of, like, silly predictions I might make, but also, like, noticing patterns of thought I might have had in the past that turned out, I look at them now and I think, "What were you thinking? Like, that wasn't true. Maybe the devil had a hold of me when I was doing that," right? And number 2, it helps me realize when I was right, right? And it helps me understand better when certain ideas I had or, decisions I made did really work out in my favor, and helps give me confidence and insight into how I can do more of that in the future, right? So not that this would necessarily work for everyone, but seeing the Pope S here in your spread of cards about what your spirit guides are saying, I would read this as them saying, um, do things that the Pope S does, right? Okay, so I'm over the 2-hour mark today for this live stream. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and if I've had the pleasure of reading for you today, thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. If I was not able to read for you today, I would love to read for you in the future. If you subscribe to the channel, it'll be easier for you to see when I'm going live, and I would hope to see you again in a future live stream. I've been trying to be better about scheduling the lives in advance. Although I still reserve the right to just spontaneously hop on if I suddenly find that I have some free time or feel inspired to read the cards for others. And so I sometimes will do that too. And if you're subscribed to the channel, it's easier to see when I just have hopped on live. At least it is for me when I'm looking at other channels that I've subscribed to. You can see the little dot next to the name to indicate that there's something new going on there. As I've said before, I am also available for paid readings. If anyone is interested in that, you can check out the description of the video for the link to book either a live Zoom one-on-one or a recorded audio reading. For the recorded audio readings, you email me a question and then I record the audio and pull the cards, take a picture of the cards, and I'll send you that. My goal is to get those within 48 hours, although I can often do them more quickly depending on what's going on and when I get the message and all of that stuff. So that's going to do it for my live stream today. Thanks again to everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being kind to each other in the chat and civil, and for posting your questions and all of that good stuff. And I look forward to seeing you all next time. Goodbye, everybody. Be kind to one another and be well.